Welcome everyone to Engineering the Hard Problems, a podcast where we explore engineering challenges that don't disappear when we scale. Hi, I'm Rajeshwari, a Senior Director with Platform Services in Epsilon. And today we are talking about something that many engineering organizations are experiencing right now, the changing roles and skills in the software organization. For a long time, engineering teams have operated with fairly defined boundaries. Business analysts would document requirements, developers build applications, the infra team managed environments, and the QA would test and validate. Right. Today, however, those boundaries are starting to blur. As we move towards product aligned, platform driven, and AI augmented engineering environment, it is more about adopting not just the technologies but also about moving from a mindset change. Engineers today are expected to own more of end-to-end the system knowledge and understanding. So that raises the big question, how do organizations then evolve their roles, skills and operating models without really creating a confusion and slowing down delivery? To explore this, I am joined today by Jaison Manian, who is the Managing Director for Epsilon Platform Services, and Amit Khandelwal, who is the Senior Vice President for Platform Services in Epsilon. Both Jaison and Amit have been closely involved in shaping how Epsilon is thinking about the future of engineering roles for platform services. Welcome Jaison and welcome Amit. Let's start with the core challenge then. One of the biggest challenges that we face today is how do we align the roles, skills and the operating model with the modern day platform needs, right? So product teams need to move faster, infra needs to scale globally, and AI is beginning to assist in almost everything, right from documenting requirements to code generations to even test case creation. So the challenge really is not about adopting new tools, it's about how engineering teams must think, how they must work and how the engineering roles actually would shift. So then Jaison, when you look at how the engineering roles are evolving today, what is that one core problem that organizations must solve for?
Thank you again, Raji, and thank you for welcoming us to this episode. The problem that we're trying to solve is we are moving from a more specialized roles into more generalized roles. So what do I mean by that? The example is, as you had mentioned before, we had three specific roles, for example, in services. You would move from the BSAs to dev to QA. Those roles are getting compressed, and now the roles are being required to be more generalized and more fungible.
That's very interesting. So essentially what you're saying is we are moving away from highly specialized skills to more generic, operating across different stages of the SDLC life cycle itself. Now, while I agree that may be sounding very empowering, it can also become overwhelming if the underlying platform doesn't really support it. So, Amit, from your perspective, how does platform engineering enable this shift and not burden the teams with even more complexity?
Thank you, Raji. This is interesting, and thank you for inviting me. First of all, I think the shift is going to be. I feel it's a transformational shift which is happening, and it is important that we keep associates also in mind in terms of the journey what we are carrying on. We're taking a couple of actions in this area. One is while we are working on most of the repeatable tasks to be automated, and that is one stream which we are working on to make sure that most common task of the provisioning, CI/CDs, test case generation requirements really gets automated. The second thing which we are working on is smoothly working on this blurring of boundaries which you talked about, Jaison talked about, that how the shift is going to happen. It is not an overnight shift. So it is something that we are working on a path and a journey that how this orchestration journey is going to help an engineer to kind of envision the larger canvas. And the third most important thing which we are doing is giving a very structured path, a structured journey to every associate to relate that what this journey means to me and what is needed from my side to make it happen. And there has been a lot of effort happening in the background to make sure those curriculums are planned, those POCs are done, those test environments are given, organizations giving enough co-pilots and the licenses for them to operate. So I think there has been multi-pronged effort which is happening on this.
That's a very interesting point that you make. So basically, you're saying the platform absorbs a lot of the complexity and allows the teams to focus on solving the actual problem itself.
Absolutely.
Right. Okay. Now, while transformation sounds pretty exciting and interesting, we know reality is different. You know, large organizations just simply cannot change overnight. There are established processes. There's a lot of deep specializations that's involved. So also we have built solutions that we have made complex over a period of time, right? So that actually brings me to my next question, Jaison, which is like, what or where have you seen the biggest challenges in scaling this kind of a transformation?
So the challenge we are facing as a professional services organization is the shift from knowledge dissemination to knowledge absorption. So what I mean by that is that there's so much of information floating around that it becomes almost impossible to actually understand knowledge. But on the other hand, AI is making the knowledge dissemination a lot more simpler. And the second biggest problem that we have is change management, just because of all the rapid change that's happening, you know, in the lives of folks. So therefore, our biggest focus now is change management.
What you're saying, Jaison, resonates with what a lot of the organizations are, facing today. Basically, technology adoption is faster than the comfort with the change itself. You know, engineers may have all the powerful tools, but the cultural mindset shift change that is needed to use them differently, that takes more time. As part of the transformation, there's also another aspect that we have to consider, which is that usually transformations like this will definitely involve trade-offs. So Amit, if leaders want to make this shift, right, what are some of the trade-offs that they need to consciously accept?
Yeah, I think that's a good question, and this is something often in our management meeting we keep discussing about it. This journey is not going to be smooth, and we know that there are certain things which we all need to be comfortable with. I think the automation and optimization journey is not going to be running very fast the way probably we would like to be. So we need to understand that the pace of this journey is going to be that, like Jaison talked about, adoption is going to take time. While you may have an intent, but adoption may take time. So I think you need to be patient with the journey. I think that is one point. Second point is a mindset. I think you talked about mindset shift. It is a big shift which is happening for the associates on the ground. While the intent is there, sometimes it takes time for them to understand the larger picture. And hence that shift is something which has to be really planned out, and we need to be patient with that. Trade-off, another one which I would say is you may not be able to take 100% of your organization with you with the plan and process because you've got certain thought process in mind. In that case, there is a possibility that maybe few percentage of talent may not come with you. So you have a risk of losing some of the talent also in this journey, but I think that's a trade-off you have to take in this.
There's a powerful point that you just made. It's about just not what to adopt, but also about what not to adopt, and what you need to optimize for. So for instance, what I mean by that is maybe just focusing on cost reduction would actually slow us down on innovation, or just focusing on speed may actually add technical complexity which is not necessarily needed.
100%,
Yeah.
Totally agree with that,
Yeah.
yes.
So overall, strategically this makes sense, but when it comes to implementation, then reality is different, right? So the teams will still have to deliver solutions, the systems will still need to remain reliable, and customers will need to see that continuity. So the question really becomes when we introduce changes, right? How do businesses continue to operate without impacting delivery? So Jason, when Epsilon started evolving this delivery model, what were some of those enablers that helped make this rollout possible?
So we focused it from two ends of the spectrum. So the left end, if you will, was we democratized the knowledge sharing and the adoption. So what do I mean by that? So we gave, as Amit mentioned, we enabled Amazon Q licenses for almost everybody, for them to learn and for them to understand how they could use the technology in their day-to-day work, instead of we dictating, okay, this is how it shall be done. So we thought that will enable a lot more curiosity and will help them actually understand the technology a lot faster than if it were mandated. On the other end of the spectrum, what we did was the key features that would, if you think about it, would be the crown jewel used by more than one project. We combined those features together and we started I would call it a sidecar engineering project where, as in an open source model, developers were contributing to a central code base, which then would be used by more than one project. So this was the way we handled that particular challenge.
That's very interesting. So basically what you're saying is the transformation is not something that is being done as a separate strategic initiative. It's sort of embedded into the day-to-day, however, how the teams are building, it's in their ways of working, right? So wow, I mean the pace of change is truly exhilarating. So then looking ahead, Amit, how is Epsilon preparing the engineers for the roles and the skills that is needed for the next generation?
Yeah. So I think I'll probably take the clue from what Jason mentioned. Automation is, we have agreed on an automation journey, and I think we are getting all of our associates on board in this. This is no more an option for team to kind of look at beyond their core skills and technologies. Automation has to be foundational. So getting automation and AI in their day-to-day work is something which is a foundation everyone has to adopt, irrespective of job codes, labels, whatever you're working on. So that is one. I think second thing is there's a lot of, I'll probably pick up the same fungibility talk, but I'm saying you need to go away from boxing your job specifications. These are all unlearning some of the old practices of doing things. So unboxing the ways of working, stretching yourselves towards the overall outcome of the project, I think that is a mentality shift we are working for the associates at this time. And I would say, I think the third thing which is going to be important at this time is that the future lies in everyone in the team knowing business well. So business understanding, domain understanding has to come as part of their learning. So while they are moving away from their core technology to broadening to the AI, they are also broadening themselves to the domain. I think these are the 2-3 shifts which we are working on in a very structured way to make sure that our associates get to that journey.
Great. So the idea of engineers owning the systems end to end rather than focusing on individual tasks is probably the way the next generation is going towards, right? Okay. Before we then close, I'd like to ask one question to both of you. What is that one change that Epsilon needs to make today to stay relevant for tomorrow?
I'll take that first.
Yeah, please.
So I'm going to give you a cheat answer. I'm not going to give you one thing, but I'm going to give you two things. So from a organization perspective, especially from a platform services perspective, given the fact that we have now the latest concept, which is agentic or event-driven agentic AI, which is what that means basically is when a question is asked, instead of going through an existing agent, the agents are created on the fly and then they talk to each other and they solve the problem. And if they can't solve the problem, then there's a man in the middle. So given that we are moving towards that, the biggest focus for us is to be able to reduce the handoffs between resources. When we do that, and these are physical resources, when we do that, we'll automatically be a lot more enabled and a lot more faster. Now, what does that do to the human element, which is the other, from a person's perspective, if the machines are answering, quite a bit of my problems, and what do I as a human being need to do? Well, I need to, I think, using the same words that both of you guys have used before, then the requirement for fungibility. We need to be almost shape-shifting into being more consultative. No more are we a software a designer and a software programmer. These lines are, are blurring to such an extent that we need to be whatever life needs us to be. So I think these are the two main things that we would have to do as an organization.
Thank you, thank you. That was really insightful.
Yeah, I think Jaison has covered all. I would say automation, very important. Everyone has to adopt automation. So I think that's where all the focus is going to be. Consultative mindset, that's going to be very important for us when we are transitioning from a very technology-based working to a more consultative, customer-centric working. I think that's a mindset shift we are probably going to enforce or bring into our overall culture. And third, I think very similar with Jaison mentioned, I think we need to bring a culture where we constantly improve and automate things because that is how the models are going to get trained and going to be more useful. So I think these are few shifts which we would like to see in our teams.
Yeah, just to add up on what Amit says, we are going through a transformational phase at a rapid pace, right? I mean, for example, the set of tools that we use today is not going to be the set of tools that we will use maybe 2 months from now.
Yeah.
Even the roles that we define today, so today we might define, we have this concept in platform services called platform consultant, which is an Uber a combination of a BSA, dev, and QA all rolled in together. We have envisioned that today, but who knows what's going to happen a year from now? We won't even know if that changes. So what I guess I wanted to wrap up with is that resources need to be mobile. We need to shape shift.
Yes.
Today we might be Superman. Tomorrow we need to be Batman maybe because we don't know what life is going to.
I think this adaptability, flexibility is something that has to be embedded in the culture. We all are going through it, so I think we need to adopt it.
Yeah.
As platforms, AI, and product-driven engineering models are shaping the industry, the organizations that are able to adapt their engineering culture are the ones who are best positioned for the future. So thank you, Jaison. Thank you, Amit, for joining us today and sharing your perspectives with us. And thank you, everyone who's watching Engineering the Hard Problems. We shall see you soon in the next episode.
Thank you, Raji. Thank you, audience.